Warren-Sanders and Biden-Sanders-Warren. Two polls, two somewhat different results, but you know us, we're going to get into the weeds on what it all means.
Team Rising is here to help us with that. Roger Fisk is a Democratic strategist, and Inez Stepman is a senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum. Two friends of the show.
Indeed.
Welcome.
Great to see you both.
Good morning.
All right, fascinating new poll. This is the Quinnipiac poll that's just out of South Carolina. Obviously, of course, the top thing there, South Carolina Democratic Party. Joe Biden sitting at the top, 33%, Elizabeth Warren 13 and 11. However, the real headline everybody was talking about, Roger, is after this came out, particularly amongst black voters in South Carolina, which constitute, I think, 65% of the electorate there, Pete Buttigieg is at 0%. 0%. He was at 0% months ago, and we made fun of him for that. But now it's like been months of massive amounts of campaign war chest, investment in the state, polling, and nothing is making a dent for him.
Well, then you have to give him points for consistency.
Right?
He's proving to be a steady hand on the rudder. Thanks so much for having me, and it's great to be here with Inez as well. You know, we've said over and over that Iowa is the biggest slingshot in the world, right? So things can change very, very quickly. The question is like, does he have a landing pad somewhere in those three states that follow? I see him probably maybe third or fourth in New Hampshire. If he wins, maybe third or second. Nevada, he's going to have some problems, and then obviously South Carolina. So the question is like, what does he try to pluck off the Super Tuesday tree, right? Obviously, he's probably going to do okay in California, but then you could spend $18 million there and no one would even know, right? So resource allocation, where he's taking the Iowa and the New Hampshire staff resources as they free up and then deploying them. Obviously, some of the other folks in the field have some structural advantages on Super Tuesday. So it's going to be very interesting to see where he pushes that staff and where he puts his chips down on the Super Tuesday calendar. Because I think he's going to have a hard time in states 2, 3, and 4. He's going to do very well in Iowa, but New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina are going to be challenging.
And Super Tuesday, we're talking about a lot of southern states. We're talking about Tennessee. We're talking about Alabama.
Texas.
We're talking about Oklahoma. We're talking about Texas, Virginia, North Carolina, a lot of states with sizable African-American populations, a lot of strong places for Joe Biden and very weak places for Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if Joe Biden does not do well in Iowa, what happens to his support going forward. I know that on this show we've talked a lot about whether that's actual hard support for Joe Biden or whether it's name recognition plus the fact that he's the presumptive front runner. I think the same thing about Elizabeth Warren, actually. I think she's for the first time taking shots as a leader or a real top tier candidate and a top 3 candidate. And I don't know, and some of that maybe in terms of where Buttigieg can go, it's maybe picking off some of Warren's support. Their bases actually have a lot of overlap, as it turns out. So maybe that's where he goes if Warren
like
starts
Virginia
to take
or something.
so much fire. He starts to pick up.
That's what's happened. I mean, she's dropped like 6 points in Iowa as Buttigieg continues to go up. I mean, we have a morning consult poll. We can also, our favorite poll, only plus or minus 1% margin of error here. I mean, you can see she's sitting at 17%. Bernie and Joe Biden honestly have not moved. I mean, it's like we put this poll up every week. The only person, Bernie and Joe Biden are relatively static. Warren has begun to fall, like over and over again. And it really seems, Roger, that she's being tested in Iowa and New Hampshire, and Buttigieg is just crawling into her support. And that's a big problem for her.
It is, although when you look at the broader trajectory, I would be actually more comfortable being in her position because I think it's deeper and more sustainable than his position, which is more, to call it circumstantial or something, I think it doesn't do it justice. But the size of her organization, if you look at where she's been traveling, that she's when I talk about like looking ahead on the calendar and where do they put their chips down, she's been doing that, I think, very, very intelligently. But at the same time, I can sympathize with the calculus that the Buttigieg folks are saying, which is they come out either first or second in Iowa, or it's curtains.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's right.
Well, and unlike Pete, I think to your point, she's not doing amazing with voters of color, but she is doing much better than Pete Buttigieg
10%,
is.
right.
Yeah.
She's also getting, a lot more coverage and a lot more treatment as a front runner. I mean, Pete Buttigieg did surprisingly well in the last debate. It's interesting to me because they're almost mirror images of each other. I think Buttigieg has the reputation or the veneer of seeming more moderate, although some of his positions are, especially on social issues, are really far to the left.
Yeah.
And Warren, her policy positions are quite far to the left, but there is this mistrust that she's being authentic about those positions. So it's almost like a reversal. Pete Buttigieg has this perception of being the moderate, while Elizabeth Warren has the perception of being the radical. And people, I think, both of those perceptions might actually be kind of wrong.
Buttigieg really, to me, has a complete misreading of the case, in which he's like a social radical and an economic moderate, and then Warren is actually just left on both of those issues, whereas the country is much more like culturally.
I mean, they're both technocrats. Like, that's the bottom line, is they may be slightly different positions ideologically. They both have an undying faith in, like, the credentialed, elite to write policy and come up with white papers, and McKinsey our way to the answer. And so that's why they have very similar coalitions and a lot of overlap between them.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think Buttigieg's kind of public brand, one of us is going to get this last name right before the morning's over, is somewhat less defined. So in a sense, similar to what Trump went through and similar to what Obama went through, there's more of a capacity for people to project onto that individual what they want. There's more blanks to fill that people then can kind of fill on their own. Whether or not those are a real reflection of kind of policy positions or values that the individual has. Whereas Warren's much more defined. Like, people aren't saying like, I think she's probably like that. You know what I mean? It's more of like a known entity.
Yeah, that matters a lot.
I think they don't know her authenticity about. Obviously, she's the one with 80,000 plans, and her plans are very far left for the most part. But I still think that there's an authenticity gap there. Whereas Buttigieg, there's kind of a flip side authenticity gap in the sense that, but I don't think it's as damaging of one. I think it's fine. I think a lot of people vote on how they feel about somebody's sort of general demeanor, and he's got that Midwest demeanor.
The one thing I would point out is if you dig down into the second choice picks, there isn't a lot of room for him to pick up, because you've got Warren people, second choice is Sanders, Bernie's people, second choice Warren, Biden's people, second choice Sanders. He's not really making the list in any of those. So I think there's a little bit of limited room for him to grow at this point.
Yeah.
Stick with us. We got more we want to get to right after this.